all set. Very good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the regular Board of Education meeting. Just a quick housekeeping announcement. The Open Public Meeting Statement, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind taking attendance?
Here. Ms. Chambers? Here. Ms. Chigarelli? Here. Ms. Clark? Here. Ms. Kenny? Here. Mr. Ryan? Here. Mr. Valenti? Ms. Weber?
Here.
7 present and accounted for.
If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. It's over by the front door. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have a fairly packed agenda, and I know there's a lot of folks here that want to speak, so I'm going to pass the ball quickly over to Dr. LaSousa for the Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. My only item is a reminder that we'll have the first ever Tedx Youth at Chatham event that we are holding on June 14th. And I can tell you that the first day the registration went live, we registered 236 people, and that number has been ticking up. So it could well be that we'll have a packed house and a sellout crowd, even though it's free to come. And I wanted to let Karen speak a little bit about what's been going on behind the scenes, because she and one of our English teachers, the one who was here a couple of meetings ago, Christina McCabe, have been spearheading the effort and working with CEF and Amanda Feeman and Annie and Damien and a whole team of folks who are trying to get this off the ground in the right way. So I'll turn it to Karen quickly.
So actually today, Ms. Weber and Dr. LaSousa and another supervisor and I were watching the students present. They are currently being coached by Ms. Annie Devlin, who is so giving of her time. And just with regard to the event, we have a lot of preparations happening. We're organizing a musical performance at 5:30, and then registration will take place at some point during that time, and you can come and register and sit outside and listen to our students perform music. And as you enter, the jazz band will be on stage performing, and then you will be able to hear our students give TED Talks, which are very, very moving, and I cannot say enough about the students and the emotion and the dedication that they put into doing these talks. And we'll also have some adult speakers come as well. Those names will be revealed within the next 2 weeks. We also have a video. Mr. Connor Henderson, with the input of his students, has put together some promo videos, and they're just giving you a little preview of what is to happen on June 14th. So I want to share that video and remind people to make sure to register. You have to fill out a registration form for anybody who is in attendance. Again, the event is free, and I am sure that if anybody attends this event, they will be inspired and highly impressed by some of the information that will be shared. So here's Mr. Henderson's promo video.
It's just 1 minute long, so.
Sometimes you need something simple, like a scoop of ice cream, some sprinkles, and someone to share it with. I remind myself that the way I feel about myself shouldn't be synonymous with the words fear, hatred, and self-pity.
This is my mom, and this is also my mom. And even though I hadn't spoken with one of them up until a few months ago, I'll never stop loving them.
My bus driver had a family. She had kids and she had grandkids. And I wonder what they would feel like if they knew that she was being neglected.
I felt like she just wanted to embarrass me, and none of my teachers wanted me to succeed.
These are stories that need to be heard and that people need to hear. And the only way to do that is to simply sit down and talk.
And although you can't choose your family, you can definitely choose your friends. And as you grow and change throughout your life, your friends change with you.
In order to be a good leader, you need to recognize the needs of others and put those needs above yourself.
Thanks, Mr. Henderson. Those are great promos. I did have an opportunity to watch one of the privileges, probably the only privileges. I get to sneak into buildings off hours, and I watched 2 hours of the kids do TED Talks on Friday, and it was amazing how comfortable and how personal their stories were. I mean, I'm thinking these kids are 16, 17, 18 years old, and they are telling these, some lighthearted, all of them very personal, but so poignant. And they have actual Tedx trainers. They have a trainer from, a huge brokerage firm in New York, who my firm pays thousands of dollars to train us to speak in public. She's sitting there and critiquing these kids for hours. She's giving them content help. She's giving them how to stand, how to move your hands, how not to do things, and how to get your message across. The importance of pausing on a particular moment to allow the audience to absorb it. It is incredible. It's not surprising that that it's already half filled. And I asked today, what are they going to do when it fills up? Because people are going to want to get in. But once we hit 732 seats, I guess we're all filled up. But so if you have a chance to register for it, the one kid did a talk about communicating with his kids and his friends rather, and how much they talk on their phone. But he was talking about he referenced the book, and I don't know, he convinced me. I bought it. It was reclaiming conversation. But if you have an opportunity, they're also streaming it live. So if you're going to be away, you can watch it. It'll be streamed live.
Yes, anybody who cannot attend can see the video. Mr. Henderson's group will stream it live. But if you do attend, there are going to be, like I said, the musical performances, and there will be an opportunity to engage with community members and the speakers about some of the important topics that our presenters will be sharing.
Excellent, thank you,
And I also, if I can, I just cannot say thank you enough to Christina McCabe, who is so graciously giving us so much of her time. And I know she's a big TED fan, and she's going to be she's going to actually introduce the speakers at this event, and she too is being coached and practicing as well.
She's being coached. And I noticed she was taking notes for the kids so that they could focus on what the trainer and the gentleman from Broadway Tedx, so they can completely focus on what they're being told, and Mrs. McCabe was taking notes for them and then sent them over, so they didn't have to worry about jotting it down. They could really absorb what the trainer was saying. So it's amazing how lucky our kids. I think we're in the 3rd semester of the TEDx talks, and it crosses sophomores, juniors, seniors. It's not available to freshmen currently, correct? But amazing, amazing class. These kids are going to be head and shoulders above their peers when they get to college and public speaking. So thank you, Karen, for that. Dr. LaSousa, any additional comments?
That was the only thing that I wanted to mention.
Okay, well, reserve your seats because there's going to be a riot. When are you announcing the adult speakers?
I believe
Or not?
within 2 weeks, we are going to announce who will be speaking.
Okay, you might want to get in ahead of that. Online? There's a link.
CEF website.
Thank you, CEF website. Okay. Yeah, Chatham Education Foundation website. It's free, but you have to register. Okay. Mr. DeCola, Business Administrator Report.
Just very, very quickly on the middle school auditorium, the contractor had finished the abatement as I reported last meeting on April 11th. The permits were issued on May 9th, so the contractor now has been able to start his work. With the regard to the former special service building, the Township Fire Department has used the building for training exercise. The borough is also planning to use it. They got a little preempted because they were going to plan it, and then the contractor ended up doing the asbestos abatement, which is now finished.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that the borough fire department can get the train in the building before it comes down in the next few weeks. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
I have a question about the timeline of the auditorium at the middle school. What is the expected, and I know construction doesn't always go as planned, but
The
currently?
expected timeline is completion by the end of December 19.
Can I ask a question about the special ed building removal? Is there any way we can wait till after the kids are out of school and all the, just because when you take something down, it's like a pile of rubble until it's all removed, and we're gonna have people coming and going for different ceremonies at the auditorium and different places. If we can hold off until after June 20th.
Okay, I know it was fenced up, they
I
put
know it's
fences all
fenced,
around
but
it
I'm
for the
just saying.
abatement, but
Yeah.
if that's the request,
I'm just
I'll ask.
asking. I mean, at this point, what's
With-
another 3 weeks?
without it costing us more money.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I have
it's
to,
a
I'll
dollar.
check the contractor schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, am I crazy?
I thought that the building was determined to be unsafe. Why are people training in it?
Oh,
It's the fire department.
is it unsafe or not?
It was unsafe for regular occupancy, and the cast of
But
12,
since it's the fire
7
department, they
people, you know, and the
Gotcha.
fire department only accessed the, you know, the roof and the first floor.
So they're doing different types of, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, for offering to them. I mean, it's hugely important for them to do extraction drills, you know, punctuation drills, coming in from the roof, extracting somebody from the basement. I mean, it's invaluable to be able to practice in a live structure.
It's around the night that the township was doing the testing, we had coincidentally had a finance meeting, and then when I was leaving and saw the commotion, said, oh, and I went over and I was actually speaking to the assistant fire chief. He said, this is very good to do, he said, because they have a schematic that they typically train with. He said, but the firemen memorized the schematic.
Right.
You know, so he said, this is really something, you know, different and much more beneficial.
Sure.
And we were joking. I said, well, I apologize that it's so small. And he says, no,
That's
the
ideal.
little rooms are actually better because that, you know, helps with, you know, containment exercises.
Right, or taking, you know, those stairways are super narrow and it's an old building, but to be able to extract somebody, you can't bring a stretcher up there, you've got to bring them down on a chair, as we learned at 9/11, so that's a perfect building, so thank you for offering it to them. And
Just trying to be a good neighbor.
leave it available to them as long as they need it.
Can I just also follow up with what Michelle was saying about Lafayette? I know since the weather's gotten nicer, the kids are playing outside as well, and if it prevents them from having recess in the front area,
Okay.
I would also have that as reason to hold off. Yeah.
Will do.
Great, thanks. Thank you. And the auditorium, when is the play scheduled? Does it impact the middle school play, or will they do it up here at it does?
Right now, according to James Lawrence, it is in the works to do the middle school play in the high school auditorium.
Okay, great.
If we're able to change it, then he would. But
Okay, perfect.
That's the plan for now.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Any additional questions for Peter on any of the facilities or construction? Nope, very good. Thank you. Moving over to committee reports, Mrs. Ciccarelli for personnel.
We met on May 13th, discussing just kind of an update on negotiations and various contracts that were being approved and any resignations we had for the year, any openings and whatnot. And we will be meeting again June 17th.
Okay. 17th, great.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions on personnel? I was going to make Beth answer them. Curriculum, Ms. Clark?
Curriculum met last Monday. We had an overview of special ed with Dr. D'Elia, Dr. Lanza, and Dr. Jaffe. We got a kind of a scope of the programs from K through 12 and the different offerings that Chatham has. We got to look at the numbers in different capacities within the special ed community in our schools, and some of the trainings that have been given in the past and that are going to be looked at going forward. The board and curriculum had, it was really a very comprehensive, we didn't get through a lot of Q&A because it was so much information, but we did have some really good dialogue about certain things, and we were able to kind of stop and pause and take closer looks. We also very briefly at the end, and this might come up at board business, talked about the role of liaisons as the board members being liaisons on different committees within the town and the community, and just really how effective our roles are in that capacity. And maybe we should take another look at maybe one thing that came up was have liaisons become under board business, new board business, so that we're a lot of time we're saying, we don't have anything to report. So it just could be as needed, as reported. It could just, and that just came up quickly, so we thought we might, if anyone wants to talk about that at new board business, but that was kind of what we talked about.
Okay.
And we're meeting June 3rd.
Okay, so we'll cue that up for board business at the end?
Yeah, we're
Probably.
happy to, if anyone has.
Yeah, no, I
wants
think
to
it's,
dive.
it's worth exploring,
Yeah.
And we don't need to hold these folks up if
Yeah.
they don't want to hear it,
Mhm.
as interesting as it'll be. Has finance and facilities met, Lotta, or no? Oh, you guys are all over here.
Since the last meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And policy and planning, Mr. Arnott?
Sure, policy and planning, Ms. Weber met just before tonight's meeting, where we discussed data policy, summarizing the board presentation that our fine data manager in the school system gave to the board. So we're looking at some policy initiatives and things that we can do to codify policy around data. And we also looked at policy around student threat assessment. In both of those items, there is more to discuss and more to study, so we're not going to act on anything tonight.
Okay. And the data policy discussion included usage, student usage, staff usage, and our ability to scan and monitor, and not just internally, but also ward off attacks from the external.
Yes.
Excellent.
Protocols who can notify and when should we have some type of data breach.
Okay.
incident.
I don't want to reveal any backups, but adequate backup facilities and
Yes, ma'am.
very good. Any questions for anybody on policy and planning? We can bring it up again at the end to discuss liaisons. Liaison reports for the borough. The only thing I have to report is we're just keeping an eye on, of course, the various redevelopment projects in the borough and the township. So downtown, what people are calling Post Office Plaza, that's one area. River Road is another area. The numbers are not solidified yet. It could be anywhere from 202 to 250 downtown. There might be, 300 units, but nothing's been solidified. Ms. Dempsey is here if she wants to add anything. A lot of people say, well, how's that going to affect the school district? Until we know the number of bedrooms, we have no idea. If they're all studio apartments, not going to affect us at all. If they're 3-bedroom apartments, it's going to impact the school district significantly, and we'll have to work with, the numbers as they fall in. But I believe it's still too premature to make any kind of assessment, and we have our local officials working that at the municipal level. And we do work closely. Ms. Dempsey, informs us where we need to be and vice versa, so it's a good working relationship. But the redevelopment is not a school matter, it's a municipal matter, but we are keeping an eye on it just from a enrollment standpoint. Township, Ms. Clark?
Nothing to report from the township.
Excellent, thank you. Athletic boosters and recreation. Ms. Chicarelli.
Yeah, they meet again on June 4th. And I just want to give a shout out to the Chatham girls lacrosse team who beat Summit this afternoon for the first time in 8 years. Wow. In the semifinals of the state sectional, so they will play Mendham. Sorry, you guys are going down on Thursday. In the state sectional final. So yeah, it was an unbelievable game. Went to overtime. And Francis Workman, who's one of the 3 seniors, scored the winning goal. It was just insane. Yeah, great game. So
when is it? Thursday? I'm sorry.
Thursday. I believe it's at 4, and it's at Mendham.
4 at Mendham. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, should be another really good game.
Okay, excellent. Going down, Lasusa.
He's okay with it.
He's okay with that.
No girls on the lacrosse team for him.
No. Performing arts, Mr. Arnott?
We do not have a performing arts report for this meeting. We will have one for the next meeting. I already spoke to our liaison.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And Chatham Education Foundation, Ms. Kenny?
Yes, the CEF would like to thank the community for supporting the Casino Royale, which was held in April. Also would like to just say that the Tedx talk that Karen and Jill and the presentation was about was due to the generosity of CEF, and they are. It started off with Karen and another teacher going to Texas, and actually rolling out this whole program was through a grant through CEF. Teacher tributes will be launching on Thursday, May 23rd. And the spring appeal letters will be in people's mailboxes this week, so if you could continue to support CEF, the district and the students would appreciate that. And lastly, we'd like to announce that Sally Allen will be the new president for CEF, and she's worked with the board with us in the past, and we look forward to working with her in the future.
She's usually sitting over there.
She is
You're separate,
Rosalinda, you're it? Okay, thank you.
All right.
Very good. Thank you to CEF. Not only did they fund it, but they're instrumentally involved almost daily in Tedx. Like a couple of needs.
For the robotics,
Yeah.
and you name it.
A need comes up and they're like, how can we help?
Yeah.
And they jump on it. It's been amazing. And the Tedx, I know originally was like, oh, well, we hope we can get it up and running, and maybe it'll take a year or so. It's not just up and running, it's thriving.
Yeah.
They're done 3 semesters, they're ready to do a full-on TED Talk on the stage. It is amazing the ramp-up time and how quickly they got it together. The teachers, Mrs. McCabe, and the students. Okay, enough about TEDx. I can't wait to see it. Mike, was there any district cabinet meetings, or Ann?
I believe so. Next one's June 5th, is that correct?
Yes, that's a end-of-year luncheon. And I can't attend that. I have a
might
conflict.
actually go to that one.
I have a conflict
Where is
on
it?
that day.
Roots?
No, it's local.
at someone's home. That's home.
Madison Cake Shop.
Really? You'll get a Mr. Softy. All right, excellent. Then I'd like to make a motion to move the public and executive session meetings for April 29th. Peter, I'm going to do these one at a time, so I'm going to do April 29th first.
Okay. It doesn't, everybody can vote, everybody that's here can vote on both of them, so.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Mike was the only one absent from May 6th, he's not here.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, very good. Okay, then I rescind that. I make a motion to move the public and executive sessions for both April 29th and May 6th.
Second.
Lotta second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Minutes from April 29th to May 6th, past 7:0.
Excellent, thank you. We have our first opportunity now for public commentary. There's also one at the end, so if something on the agenda strikes your interest, please feel free to stick around and mention it again. Hearing the citizens during public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. We'll try and keep it to 3 or 4 minutes if possible, depending on how many speakers. And just a reminder, this is not, we don't use the public commentary as an opportunity to back and forth and answer questions, but if we can, we'll answer any questions and address concerns at the end after everybody's had an opportunity to speak. So if you wouldn't mind just queuing up at the podium, if you could introduce yourself, that would be fantastic. I'm sorry.
And just as far as the timing, anyone can get back in line and speak again. We'll stay here all night. It's just to give people a chance to kind of circle through and have their voice be heard and kind of give equal opportunity. So it's not that we're trying to prevent people from speaking, it's trying to give everyone a chance to speak.
Is this on? Yes. Good evening. My name is Bill Karpowick. I have lived in the Chatham since 1994. I currently live in the borough. Both of my children have gone through the school system in Chatham, my youngest having graduated last June. I am here on behalf of the baseball community in town. The high school parents are probably still in transit coming home from a 3-2 state playoff game victory at Belleville, a very well manicured field. I'm here to talk about specifically the unsightly and somewhat unsafe condition of the field this particular year. This has been somewhat of an ongoing issue, at least since I can remember. I do understand that the school district has already made some plans to repair at least the infield portion of the diamond at the conclusion of the high school season, which will have to wait at least another couple of days, hopefully a couple of weeks. And while I'm thankful for that, and the baseball community is thankful for that, I'd really like to point out the absolute importance of having a proactive maintenance program during and most especially, during the season and most especially during the off season. One of the reasons why the youth fields in Chatham, in both the borough and the township, have succeeded in being some of the nicer fields in the county is because we have a proactive plan implemented throughout the regular season, which really for us is April through the end of July, but just as importantly during the off season we have buy-in from both DPW departments, and we have a professional group that come in every fall and annually do significant maintenance to the field, which over time we feel not only saves us money but makes the fields extremely respectable and, like I said, some of the nicer fields throughout the county. I've already had a very positive correspondence with Dr. LaSousa, and my hope is to have a meeting with him alongside any of the other administrators that should be there, and I'd like to bring along one of the youth baseball leaders who's been instrumental in helping to develop a proactive plan for our youth fields really over the last 3 to 4 years, and I think that that can be extremely valuable information passed on to the people at the high school. Both of my kids, like I've already said, have gone through the school system program, so I'd like to thank all the volunteer Board of Ed members. I see you a lot during the course of the year. I usually thank you. I'll thank you again. I thank the administrators for helping to maintain a fantastic school system. And I wish you all a good summer. Thank you.
Hi there, Carolyn Dempsey, Chatham Borough. I just want to follow up on what Ms. Weber said, and which is absolutely right about the development in Chatham Borough, that it's very, very early. We have not yet chosen a developer or developers for the Post Office Plaza area, and it's even more premature for the River Road development. That's even further behind. But just to and you're absolutely right that the number of whether they're 1 bedrooms or studios or 2 bedrooms are going to make a big difference. And something for me that was encouraging to learn is that the Rose Hall development in Madison, which is I think 130 units, has only added 1 school-age child in Madison, and so that's not a lot of impact there. So that was encouraging for me to learn. So anyway, so that's where things stand. And then on complimenting teams, I just wanted to take a shout out to the boys tennis team who won their sectionals today. And I think for like the first time in ever, I don't know. And they got big trophy and medals, and then they play Tenafly on Wednesday, the next level. I'm kind of unfamiliar with actual tiers of what everything is, but yeah. So they go on to Tenafly on Wednesday. So go Chatham. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Just gotta write my name, huh? I'll do this first, so. Good evening. My name is Ken Jenks. I'm a resident of Chatham Borough. I've lived in the Chathams since 1998. My wife and I have had the privilege of having 2 kids through the school district. Actually, I have 2 going through the school district right now. My daughter Savannah, who's a senior, and my son Trent, who's very active in youth baseball. I've been a coach on the youth level for baseball for about 6 years. I know some of you, I coach your sons. And I got to say that we have a tremendous program that we built in the Chathams. Specifically the last 5 or 6 years, the leadership that we have. I also serve on the Chatham baseball board for the Baseball Club of Chatham. And one of the things that holds true with our program is all of our kids who come up through the program, not only do we have a bunch of dedicated dads and volunteers to make the program successful, but we also have facilities that are pretty much second to none from a lot of our surrounding communities. One of the things I struggle with, because as an avid baseball fan, I bring my son regularly to the varsity games here at the high school, and so he can see firsthand. Hopefully one day he will aspire to want to try out and hopefully want to make the team. But with that said, he sees the conditions that the current field is under here at the high school and compares that to the fields that he plays on currently at the Shumpike complex. I do realize, there are challenges when it comes to growing grass, when it comes to maintaining fields. I do have a background in that line of work. So I have the utmost respect when it comes to field maintenance, upkeep, everything. But I guess the one thing that I struggle with the most is I've always tried as a coach to keep my belief is it's all about the kids, right? Everything that we do here and we talk about is about our community and making Chatham a great place to live, play, everything. So with that said, as our kids come up through whatever youth program that they're in, soccer, lacrosse, football, in this case baseball, excuse me. I bowled when I was a kid. When our kids get to the senior level, you would expect that every varsity sport that we have in Chatham, that the conditions are similar for every sport that we have. Now, I may be wrong on this, but what I've seen in Chatham is we have a beautiful complex at Cougar Field for our varsity sports. Turfed. This year, when I had heard some rumblings about the field, the conditions, so I took my son there early in May. The team happened to be away, and I was kind of taken back by what our varsity players, the conditions that our varsity players are playing under. I'm not going to get into safety. I'm not going to get into all the other intricacies. I'm basically just here tonight to make sure that moving forward, we come up with a plan that it's going to continue to motivate our kids to want to play baseball as they move up through the program. I don't know if this thing went off. And just to make sure that it's, that all the sports are on equal playing field. I'm gonna leave with this. I had come across a video that was on your Board of Ed website, and it was one of the high school baseball players, Sean Lee, and it's We Are Chatham. I don't know if you have the opportunity to see it, but I was kind of touched by it because as I thought about it, it was taped on their first baseball game of the season. And I was thinking about if I was a senior and I came across and did that video, knowing that this is going to be your last year playing the sport that you love, that you've worked so hard and committed to get to play. You want our kids to have the same level of, field conditions as every other sport we have in Chatham. So I thank you for listening to my concerns, and I hope that, decisions we make benefit the children in our community. Thank you.
Writing pieces if you want to check those out.
Hi, I'm Amy Reale. I live in the Chatham Borough, and I'm here to represent the Chatham CPEG, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. And I just wanted to, we have had a meeting and we've had a parent chat, so I was just going to give a brief update. At a parent chat, we listened to, there were about 20 parents who came. It was right after spring break, so I felt like that was a pretty good turnout. And some of the topics that were brought up were nutrition was a big topic. So nutrition related to autism, ADHD, sensory issues. Nutrition also related to school lunch. And another topic was executive functioning, which I know is something that Dr. D'Elia has talked about as well. So we, at our last meeting, brainstormed ways to address these topics primarily in the fall. So we also talked about our fall preparations because it's really right around the corner. So back to school nights, trying to get a panel discussion related to executive functioning, and we're working with some nutritionists. And then I also wanted to mention we began to work on our agenda for our joint district meeting, which is on June 6th, Thursday, 7 to 9, and we're going to have it here. We just confirmed the space for that night, and we're hoping at that meeting to sort of talk about some of the same things as far as fall and back to school nights and logistics, but also hopefully to further our discussion on the proposals that we put over the last couple weeks. I'll refresh your memory. One was partnering with the district on Dyslexia Awareness Month, which is October. Sounds far away, but really around the corner in terms of planning. To the Wilson certification and ways that we can hopefully come up with to get more teachers certified, or at least have a discussion about that process. And then the third thing we proposed was some sort of data audit, data team, some way to look at how we're monitoring the progress of our students. We get a lot of questions from parents about how do we know, there's a lot of questions about their IEP and the goals and how do we measure compared to typical learners. And so I think that would be great if we get a chance to talk about it. I'm So thrilled to hear you talk about the curriculum committee meeting and talking about a special ed topic. And I invite you to come to the meeting too. I think a lot of what we're talking about is not only special ed, but a lot of crossover in the RTI framework with general education too. So, and then I just wanted to take a minute to say personally how grateful I am for having this CPEG started. We've really reinvigorated in December, and I've been involved over the last year, but really as the vice president since December. And it's such meaningful work. I have met so many families I would not have met otherwise, and have really learned from a lot of parents. So I also invite, if anyone's interested in joining our group, to get in contact with us through the Chatham SDOC website. And I also wanted to thank you. I've never been to a board meeting before that. I had a college professor that used to always say the personal is political. And I spent a lot of time in girls' education, and then I have a daughter with a learning difference. And so it's really, I've had to do a little bit of a pivot. I've learned so much. I've talked to teachers and principals all over this country. It's really been fascinating, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get to know something. I mean, I really felt like I had no business being here and didn't really know what this was about. So I appreciate so much your time in looking at all of these matters and being able to learn about baseball and so many different things that I wouldn't normally. So thank you very much.
TED Talks. Yes.
And TED Talks.
And TED Talks. I'm
TED Talks.
signing up.
Hello. Hi. Hi. My name is Rosalinda Rubio Williams, and you're right. Usually it's Sally sitting here. Oh, I reside in the borough. Sally Allen, presenting from the Chatham Education Foundation. Tonight, I am here instead, so just bear with me. What I have to present is not as exciting as a TED Talks, and we worked on that in the fall, but it's nonetheless equally so. I'm here to present the board with a check in the amount of $17,008.31. Anytime we have an opportunity to partner with Mrs. McCabe, Mrs. Chase, our administrators, the teachers, it's exciting. It's just, it's not always as big as the Tedx, but when we can get into the classrooms and make a difference through these partnerships, it just leaves us feeling like we're doing something right. In this case, we're awarding the monies for 2 grants. One is at SBS for Don't Walk the Halls, Prospect to Learning, and a furniture grant at Washington Avenue School. So again, not quite TEDx, but equally as exciting. Thank you.
Good evening, Bill Heap, Chatham Borough. I'm going to put on my JC hat tonight and tell you that my colleagues and I have just finished reading 50 applications for our college scholarship, and I'd like to report a few findings if I could. A couple of things you need to know. First, the applications are sanitized so that we don't know who the kids are. To us, they represent a cross-section of the graduating class. Second thing is the attitude towards these scholarships has changed over the years. At the beginning, in the early 2000s, we would get 20 applications, and most of them demonstrated a fair amount of need. That changed, especially at the recession of '08. People's attitude now is, if you're giving away free money, we're going to get online. So the number of applicants has increased substantially. The last thing is that we gave away $12,000, but it is increasingly the case that we feel like we're spitting into the ocean. In fact, it's quite depressing. The colleges and universities have been relentless in increasing prices, much higher than the rate of inflation, and it just seems to go on and on and on. I will point out on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, at the commencement at Morehouse College, the commencement speaker, Robert Smith, promised to pay off the entire debt of the graduating class. That is going to amount to about $40 million. That just shows you the dimensions of the problem. The average Morehouse graduate is $40,000 in debt, and there are 1,000 of them, which is, well, substantial. Anyway, I'm happy to report that most of the applicants are doing very well and really don't need the money. It is tough to feel sorry for somebody who tells you that they are working a summer job and inadvertently lets it slip that that summer job just happens to be while they're staying at their summer home in East Hampton or up on Nantucket. As my grandmother used to say, it's very, very difficult to cry if you have a loaf of bread in your mouth. The people we are really concerned about are the percentage of kids whose circumstances dictate that they need to try an alternative. Those circumstances would include divorce, which is pretty prevalent and nasty, death of a parent, loss of a job, chronic, long-term, and expensive medical conditions, parents taking care of multiple generations under one roof. These kinds of things dictate that the kids try something different than applying to a 4-year private school. The pressure to do that is intense. And I know this, I'm very good at stating the problem. The question is what you do about it. This has been discussed among these board members before. I really hope that the guidance department takes it upon themselves to show these kids that there are other ways to do this. The military, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but the benefits are great. Trying to graduate in 3 years instead of 4. Going to CCM for 2 years and transferring. Trying alternative trades. Employers are begging people to take on skills that they simply can't find in the marketplace and are willing to go out of their way to provide educations to kids. So I hope that the guidance department is really laying into this in a big way, because some of these kids seem to be resigned to taking on enormous amounts of debt, and my feeling is it's unconscionable to have a kid graduate with a diploma in one hand and a mortgage in the other. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Heap. Any additional public commentary? No, seeing none. There's another opportunity at the end. I did want to give the board an opportunity to address the baseball. Matt or Peter, did you have anything you wanted to add from a facilities point of view? I know you exchanged emails with Mr. Kropowicz, so I assume you're going to meet sometime in the future or follow up. Did you have anything else you want to report on baseball or?
No, I mean, Peter can elaborate. This has been an ongoing issue. I appreciate Mr. Kropowicz and Mr. Jenks' testimony. Obviously, a number of years ago, sought to really address the underlying conditions at the field through the referendum. It was defeated. One of the issues there was that we were told by an engineer that there had to be a significant amount of fill brought in and a total regrading because of the way the field drains and some of the other issues there with water collecting underneath the ground, et cetera, et cetera. Since then, we have made investments in the field. We laid new sod. We have made efforts to try to improve the condition of the field. It's not where it needs to be. This whole season I've been back and forth with Bill Labrera about some of the issues, and we're all ears for a proactive multi-year type of approach that we haven't tried yet to improve the infield in particular, but the field overall as well.
Okay, thank you. Matt, did you want to add anything from a facilities? Not yet. Okay. Stay tuned.
Can I ask a quick question?
Certainly, absolutely so.
Actually, 2 questions. So first of all, do you think our biggest obstacle is financial, i.e. budget, i.e. referendum? Because we were discussing smaller referendum items at a recent finance meeting. Or do you think it's technical, just the nature of that field and how that drains? Do you have an opinion?
A lot of it's actually restrictions from the state. Whereas it's impossible to really honestly take quality care of grass with vinegar and water as your way to fight weeds. There's heavy restrictions in terms of what we can do from a chemical perspective to manage our fields. So managing grass fields in towns is near impossible from a quality perspective and a public ground. But there are other options from a financial perspective that we didn't have to us, that maybe there is an opportunity from a financial perspective to invest in fields. And grass fields are expensive, difficult to maintain. They don't stay level. I honestly consider them dangerous in most circumstances. I wouldn't be terrified if I'm a third baseman at that field, and at any field. All these kids, where they unfortunately way they're maintained. Turf is an area that we need to take a look at again, because it's just the best way and the safest way for our kids to get quality fields. It just is what it is. There's nothing we can do. We have our hands tied in terms of field maintenance. And this is all levels. It's not as though this field is not great. I see a lot of the junior fields aren't in great shape. They're dangerous. I mean, kids walk across them when they're wet and they cause divots. Then it hardens out and there's crevices all over the place that they could roll their ankles in. They're very difficult to maintain.
Yeah, okay, Michelle, you have a question?
Matt, I'm directing this at you, Matt, or to Peter. If you can price out just kind of like a rough budget as what we're paying for the maintenance of the field in the condition that it's in now, and what the cost to put some type of turf down, whether it's even just partial turf. I mean, I don't know baseball, but I don't know if it goes outfield. So if you can report back to the board, if you can come back to us and kind of, because sometimes if you got to pay it up front and then save later, and we're spinning our wheels.
We were to get the gumption to turf everything behind us, which would feed us 3 fall fields, 2 softball, and 1 full baseball fields. It would be $3 million or $18 a family per year.
For the entire back?
For the entire back.
Okay.
I'm sorry, wait.
And that was Ben's pricing when we looked at this from a referendum perspective 5 years ago, I think was the figure.
Let's take it.
The $3 million was the number to turf that whole entire back.
How much per family? I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
We did it against the numbers. I have to adjust them a little bit because we're not getting money back from the state, but it's roughly $18 to $20 per family per year in Chatham.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that's more expensive than I'm sure our maintenance is, but.
I have to look at it over an annual basis.
That's what I'm looking, once you put it down, the maintenance is minimal.
So that's a thought.
Okay, more work for finance. Excellent, thank you. And Carolyn, you mentioned Rose Hall, I think it's called. I looked at those two. I don't know if it matters. The price point, it's like 1.1, 1.3. I don't know if that's a deterrent or inviting to a young family. Yeah. It's a far cry from when I bought my house, but I looked at them. They look beautiful because I said, I wonder if they only drew 1 kid. But then I looked at the price and I wondered if that would really price some newer families out. I don't know. I really don't know. Mrs. Williams, thank you for the enormous check. We cannot thank you enough. And CEF, Mr. Heap, thank you for your input. CPAC, thank you for coming. Welcome to our meetings again. So we're going to move on to the regular agenda. We will bring up, Matt, you missed it at the beginning. We're going to queue up some discussion on liaison structure at board business. So if you want to stick around for that, you can. If not, I certainly understand. We're going to go through the agenda fairly quickly, and we will have another opportunity for public commentary. What was that? I know. I don't blame them. So action items, personnel is up first. Mrs. Ciccarelli.
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 through A20 on your regular agenda, as well as on the addendum item A3, just an addition on that, and then also A21 on the addendum.
Okay. So 1 to 20, and then 3 and 21. Got it.
Correct.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. LaSousa or Ms. Grant regarding personnel? Again, just a reminder, the agendas are posted early on Friday prior to the board meeting, so we've already had an opportunity to look at these. Any questions for personnel? No, Mr. DeCola?
Sure, agenda items A1 through A21, including addendum A3 and A21. Mr. Gilfillan? Yes. Mr. Arnick? Yes. Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Finance and Facilities, Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes, I'd like to move action items B1 to B12 on your regular agenda. Just a number of thank yous. One, a access donation to Chatham High School in the amount of $1,000 to be used for the professional development activities, included but not limited to student field trips and leadership activities. For the, I don't know how many number of times now, again, John Gallagher in town, who's the CEO of Preferred Freezer, is donating $10,000 to our high school robotics team. This, I would say more than 3 here. It's got to be 4 or 5, don't you think?
He's now up over $50,000.
That's John Gallagher. Just a phenomenal testament to the quality of our STEM program, but also when you have someone that can support it like this, it's fantastic. A Regeneron Science Talent Search donation to the high school of $2,000 to be used as the purchase material that will support additional research projects. 2 box tops, one for Chatham Middle School and one Milton Avenue School. For you to be used at the principal's discretion. You all heard the unbelievable Chatham Education Foundation grant. They continue to just bring so much to the school district. A Travelers Cyber Grant donation to Lafayette Avenue School in the amount of $200 to be used at the principal's discretion, and then Washington Avenue School PTO donation amount of $550 for the purchase of a marker board for the school. Again, we'd like to thank everybody for their continued support of the school district.
Thanks, Matt. Any additional questions from the board on any of the finance or facility items listed or not listed? Peter?
Sure, agenda items B1 through B12. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Curriculum,
I'd
Ms.
like to
Clark, please.
move, items C1 through 3 on the regular agenda and C4 on the addendum. Second.
Karen, 3 is the plan and 4 is the team. Is that the distinction?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on item 3 or 4? Items 1 and 2 we can't talk about in public. No? All those in favor of all the curriculum items, C1 through 4?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, agenda items C1 through 4 pass 8-0.
Excellent. Policy, Mr. Arnott, any audibles?
Nothing to move, nothing audible.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move into board business. Michelle, you had queued up possibly a restructuring of the liaison committees, and I just wanted to add, typically, I mean, Matt and Lotta can correct me where I go wrong because they've been on the board longer than I have. Typically, when I was a liaison, I didn't attend the meetings. I would report out. So it wasn't an active attendance. I wasn't a member, other than if Ann and I would attend some of the athletic boosters because our kids were in the system, and we were the liaison for a particular team. So we also reported back if we were there. So is your recommendation, and correct me if I misunderstood you, is to move the liaison reports to board business and possibly just take input from the organizations?
I don't think I'm recommending anything. We just talked in that kind of just to take another look and see what is the role of the liaison in terms of being a board member. I know I can speak for myself in terms of attending meetings. I do when I can. I watch the township meetings, but I'm not going to the township meetings. I know, and we're all just strapped with our commitment to the board, with our professional responsibilities, and also with our meetings in addition to public board meetings. So just to take another look and see, is there a different way to do this and have, when there is something of relevance, instead of always having to go through the ritual of reading through, nothing to report, nothing, I don't know when the meeting was, maybe see when and there are at times, really important issues that are bubbling up. There's a peak performing arts season, but I feel like that's always heavily reported, and we're not really hearing about so much from the robotics community or the performing arts. And I just think if we're going to, when things arise that are relevant and important, we will report them out.
Okay, but not have a standing
I'm not
section?
saying yes or no. It's I'm just planting the seed.
Right.
That is this something?
So you get a written liaison report from somebody within the school district, right?
I do indeed.
So why wouldn't we, in essence, ask a representative of the borough or the township, whoever, each one of these reports, if they have something to give to us, send it to the liaison. If we have questions, we'll go back to them. And if there's nothing to report, I mean, I don't think we have to go beyond the realm of going to all these meetings, because we're already asked enough of our time as it is.
that's
Just say, listen, can you guys give us someone that just reports back to us? These are the issues that we would need.
And that is what Ms. Dempsey does.
That's what she does, and
Ms. Dempsey and Tracy does.
Tracy knows let them know.
And
Yeah,
that's, I
Tracy's
think
up.
that's all we would need to do. I think it's, I don't think we need to ask people to go to these meetings and spend extra time. I think it's just. Right.
Sure. If there's something.
I go to the senior center over around tax time and get it eaten up for 30 minutes, but.
We appreciate it.
Other than that, there's not much really to interact on outside of the fact we make sure that they're being invited to all the different things, but I think that would be the best route, because I think you actually get the most information than anyone on a consistent basis, so if we could have that interaction.
Right.
When there's something to report.
When it's something to report.
Yeah.
But that's not from the music boosters. That's coming, Sal, are you getting that?
Actually, so
Who is that?
the history is, it used to be Barbara Glenn, who used to attend, because I was also co-president of the Performing Arts Boosters. She would attend the meetings, and so she would filter back. There was, in fact, input from the boosters.
Okay.
I assume Mr. Lawrence is also getting input from the Performing Arts.
So he's kind of their board liaison. As opposed to us having a liaison to them, they have a liaison to us.
He's reporting on the curriculum, so he has all the great detail about what specific performances, and also talking about the issues among the boosters. And I get that filtered to me and Jill, and we report it.
But I don't want to make this an additional layer of responsibility for any administrator unless they want to do it, if they're, but even in terms, if that's what's then in terms of the athletic boosters, and I think we need to hear what are the athletic accolades that are happening in a certain season or not, or vice, then it just came up, and it was not just by myself. It came to me as curriculum chair. I got more than one from people on the board to kind of just take another look, so I brought it up. And I think it's not something to be solved tonight, but I think, Matt, you're right, and, we have to get some good digital relationships going.
Would that be Bill? From athletics, Bill Rivera would report.
Again, I don't think we want to make it an administrator responsible.
I feel like it's somebody that's on
the
community.
Right.
Somebody from the boosters.
Right.
When there's something relevant, or even
That's
more
right.
language, if something comes in for more language.
Secretary of the Boosters Club will send me an update if there is one needed,
But is it something that we want to have that's board related, or do we just want them to know what's going on with that organization? So I guess that would also be, do we need to define that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think we could define that a little bit more. I don't think we need this structure of these liaison reports listed out versus just, are there any liaison reports? And if somebody has something, if Caroline has emailed myself or another borough member, whether it was me or Ann or anybody from the borough, same thing Tracy Ness, if she happened to email a township person, if World Language is doing something great and the supervisor of World Language and there's something relevant that needs to be pointed out. I just don't know that we need to break it down in these categories and report, oh, nothing to report, nothing to report, nothing to report. Oh gosh, something to report. Like, I don't need to talk about the redevelopment now until there's some movement at the municipal level, or Carolyn tells me there's something that needs to be announced. And again, it's so in such early stages, it's silly to say that each and every time, unless something bubbles up, that requires it. So, sure.
I don't want to leave anybody out either. I mean, because our clubs are expanding and getting such accolades that
I think this limits us.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to forget the robotics team. You don't want to forget the Tedx folks.
Yeah.
You don't want to forget,
all. Arts is kind of unique because there's always, every single day, there's an athletic accolade or accomplishment. Whereas, there's a team that took a championship or made it to the first round or the second round or the third round. There's so many different teams. Performing arts is still fairly busy, but there's a spring concert season, there's this production, there's that production, so it's not every day. So it would be hard to do the same thing for athletics, because then the whole entire board meeting would be just deciding the scores.
Yeah, right. I was just using that as an example.
Excellent. So maybe we can, in policy, policy and also curriculum, maybe come back with a recommendation. I mean, I'm throwing out there, abolish the limitations of the list and come up with more of a structure, but addressing a lot of concern about what are the parameters. what do we want it to be, and it'll evolve, you know, we're gonna maybe make a few missteps, but we'll figure it out. I mean, these have been on, at least for the 8 or 9 years I've been here, and probably longer if Lada and Matt, you know, Matt and Lada have been here longer, so.
Don't remind me.
Sorry, I know.
Michelle and you're both on,
I'm curriculum, so we'll.
And policies.
so you're both on curriculum and policy.
Oh.
You should be able to iron this out.
How convenient. Well, who put those committees together? Must have been brilliant. Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you guys can iron it out and maybe come back with a recommendation at some time in the future. Obviously, it's not urgent, but, you know, whenever you all can come back, that'd be great. Oh, sure, Mike.
So I also threw this idea by Jill, and it's along the same kind of vein. Right now, we stack meetings, so, you know, Mondays and Wednesdays, usually there are 2 different committee meetings, and we stack them in part. Probably the history of this is that I attend every meeting. I've been wondering if we should maybe lock in Monday night at 6:30 as a time where most board members should plan on attending, on coming here.
On board
and
nights.
On board nights, when we have a regular Board of Education meeting, and then scheduling at least 2 committees simultaneously, and possibly even 3 at times. So, no. So
No, it was more to free
I
up
think
our
it would
schedule.
streamline it. Yeah, more for you guys. So, like, finance and personnel, as an example, there's no overlap on those committees. So if Peter was running the finance and Beth was running personnel, and I went between the 2 as necessary, you could. I'm sorry, then I'm missing one. Sorry, Ann. Yes, Ann, you are. So there are a couple that there are not conflicts. A bad example. But even if there are conflicts, we could make better use of the alternates so that if we do, you know, like personnel and curriculum, I think the only conflict is Mary. Jill and Mary. But you could still use it would take some finessing, but we could do 2, possibly even 3 committee meetings at one time and have that be the day, and not maybe get into the binds that we sometimes have when only 3 of you guys can attend, or we're checking for an alternate, and try to move away from Wednesday, or do Wednesdays instead of Mondays, or whatever. It was just an idea that I had. And so then Karen and Beth and Peter would be running each, and I would, you know, move as necessary depending on what the items are. So it's just an idea that I tossed by Jill.
I do like it.
The only, I guess, caveat or concern I have is that with finance, because I feel like finance is more cumulative in terms of having a bit of, we need to follow up. It's, you know, there's information that you build upon at each meeting, where most of the other meetings are more unique and more standalone, so the alternate could come in. But with finance, as you talk about the referendum and the questions, I don't think that alternate is as effective. But so that would be my only.
We could always plan around that, right, Lada? Because I mean, like this year, the budget, there was no extra money.
No, but I think if we could make finance, I mean, using finance, you know, as I'm sure we can figure out the parameters of who the people are in finance, and the other people can always meet at 6:30 as well. And
I'm with you.
maybe finance doesn't meet the other 2 meetings.
So we could work out. I mean, overall, I like it. Does everybody else? It's certainly worth a try.
Now's the time we usually put together the committee schedule for next year.
Okay.
We did the regular meetings you guys adopted on April 29th, or whatever the reorg meeting was. So usually between then and the end of the school year, we put together the draft committee schedule. So that's why I was thinking about it.
And we could always shift around. Where Mary and I overlap, we can just divide and conquer depending on an interest.
Could be 2.
What do you mean, no?
She's saying
Yeah, we could divide and conquer, and I think we should give it a shot. Everybody on the right here, good? Finance. This is the finance committee right here, so I'm looking at you guys. How about the non-finance people on my left? Very good, Mike. Okay.
I'm the alternate on finance, so I
Okay.
would like to just say that it would be more effective if all the finance people were always, that should take priority.
Okay, and then work around.
That's all I'm saying, is that the alternate should come to the other meeting.
Yes, I'm with you. So focus on finance, particularly during the hot times during the year. Sometimes, no offense, but finance it's quite mundane.
No, but you know, yes, but there was always something. There was always something, I feel, in finance.
You're not more important than the rest.
No.
Easy off. And we also don't have to meet for an hour and a half. in each committee. They can be a little bit more streamlined and focused and.
I see the problem, okay.
Okay, all right, Mike, that's I think everybody's on board. I'm not hearing anything negative, and we'll adjust as we go.
Jill, I have one more thing for work business. I attended the Chatham High School choral concert on Tuesday. I went to Broadway Under the Stars on Friday, and then I went to Nerd Camp on Saturday. I had a full week in Chatham, and I couldn't be more proud of our students, of our teachers, just of our community, and just then no one with the last name Clark were in any of the performances. It amazes me what can happen when kids just have the confidence to do something and to try something, and then just to see, and Jill was at Nerd Camp too, and just seeing all these teachers and administrators from all over the state of New Jersey come here on a beautiful sunny Saturday just to learn about literacy and talk and share, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
I know you cut the registration off at 300 or 400. There had to be well over 500 people in the auditorium. I mean, it was oversubscribed. The speakers were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Literacy and communication between authors and
just the energy in the building was just palpable, and it made me really, really proud of just where my kids go to school, have gone to school, and what our kids do and our teachers, and how we're not only doing great things amongst ourselves, but sharing it with people outside of Chatham. So
that's entirely Una Abrams at
she
Chatham
is
High School,
a phenom.
who deserves
A phenom.
all the credit for that.
She has a team of folk, but they're truly rock stars. Some of the talks, I go to Michelle, I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about the counter narrative.
I'm like,
so I'm like, explain to me Monday, but I mean, they were so enthralled, and they're all nodding, and the one speaker, the keynote speaker, I believe, she's talking about consent and how we need to teach our students, about consent and what it means starting at preschool all the way through high school. I mean, I know it was streamed live and it was videotaped, so it's definitely worth a watch if you have an opportunity. Mm-hmm. All the individual sessions weren't taped, but certainly the 5 speakers, which are short, 5 to 7 minutes long, totally worth a watch.
Right.
Yeah, it was all Chatham Hall. And any other board business? Register for TED Talks before it fills up. Although I think the 9 of you might be able to get in through a back door. All right, I don't have any additional items. Matthew, I'm sorry. Nope, very good. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself. I just want to thank our students. Thank you guys. Thank you, Denisha. Thank you, Nolan. In case your parents don't know you're here, I want to give you a shout out so that they actually know you're here. When we get the parent manual, the first page says trust but verify. So in case your dad is saying, I wonder if he really is videotaping. He is, Mr. Carney. Any additional public commentary? No, Amy?
I just want to make a comment since we talked about the liaison at the last and we brought it up as a possibility. And this is one thing we struggled with because we've seen, all the meetings that you're going to and asking someone to come, to another meeting at night. But we're here to collaborate. So if anyone, we were just trying to find a forum. Like, I'm terrible public speaker, but if you sit down with me and I can have a conversation with you, I would probably do better. And this 3-minute blurb can be tricky to sort of convey and have a discussion. So I don't know if there's a way. The special ed community is a big population in our school district, so and it's cumbersome. I don't want to have to email everybody because it doesn't concern everybody on the board, or just pick Dr. LaSousa because he kind of has a big position. It's kind of hard to know how to engage without being cumbersome. So, I offer myself, I'm the vice president of CPEG. I don't have a daytime job, and I'm flexible for meeting and talking, because I think our community, like, we have a great, I've said this before, we're kind of all case studies of a real look of what's happening in the special ed community. We all have different experiences and stuff to bring. So maybe at our June 6th meeting, we can talk about a better way to engage. And, I certainly understand not wanting to have, another night meeting. So hopefully we can add that to our agenda.
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township. I also understand the challenges for the liaisons attending additional meetings, and that indeed might not be necessary, but I would not like to see the liaison reports completely go by the wayside at each Board of Ed meeting, because I try to attend as many Board of Ed meetings as my schedule allows, and I often learn from the liaison reports things I would not ordinarily know, because maybe I'm not, don't have family members, for example, personally involved in the athletic programs. But if the liaisons are reporting on it, I gain an appreciation and maybe in some way become more on board, or just I gain knowledge. So I could also understand if there's nothing to report, you don't have to just say every month there's nothing to report. But I think having somebody on the board that is designated as the liaison should continue. So if the special education group or the athletic boosters or the township committee representative wanted to impart information, they have an individual on this board rather than more broadly just sending an email to the board members in general or Dr. LaSousa and the other administrators. So maybe again streamline the necessity of going to the meetings and revisit how you're reporting it. But I do think having somebody on the board still designated as a liaison makes sense, because I think in the long run it trims things. It doesn't, so everyone's just not communicating willy-nilly to everybody. So I just hope it wouldn't completely, as you're reassessing it, wouldn't completely fall by the wayside, because I think they're invaluable, and I always appreciate different people that have volunteered to be liaisons. Thank you. I'm just signing in.
Any additional public commentary? With that, I close the public session. We do have an executive session. I think it should be fairly brief. No action will be taken, so there's no reporters here, but just you may have to sit. Sorry. Sit, but it won't be long. So thank you, everybody. I make a motion to close the current public and move into